o'clock.
Now to another big story. After taking control of Afghanistan, the Taliban is showing the world that it's now in charge. The Taliban declaring amnesty across the country, vowing to respect women's rights and encourage them to work with the government. All that remains to be seen. The Pentagon admits they're working with the Taliban to ensure operations at the airport remain safe. And when they talk about women's rights, by the way, they mean under Islamic law as they interpret it.
The White House says approximately 1,100 U.S. citizens and their families were evacuated in coordinated flights from Afghanistan today. Yesterday, U.S. troops evacuated more than 700 people, including 150 Americans and hundreds of Afghans. You saw they're packed inside that C-17, desperate to get out. U.S. officials believe once evacuations speed up, they will be able to get between 5,000 to 9,000 people out per day. Congressman Mike Garcia, a veteran and Republican representing Santa Clarita, released a statement following the fall of Kabul. He writes, in part, my office is actively working multiple cases to assist in the evacuation of our Afghan allies who have served alongside U.S. troops and journalists.
Congressman Garcia joins us now live. Congressman, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Alex and Marla. Thanks for having me. May I just say prayers go out to the deputy who's wounded in San Bernardino. Hopefully he fares well.
Yeah, we are all thinking about him tonight as well. We're also
Absolutely.
thinking about all those innocent people in Afghanistan who are feeling very desperate to try to cling to survival tonight. Where do we go from here when it comes to Afghanistan?
Well, look, first of all, I've been saying this for several months. I know you want to look forward, but this was very predictable. This was very preventable. We should have been taking the actions that we are now taking under duress and under a very stressful and chaotic environment months ago. This was something that was a doable do. We had a plan. We decided to vacate and abandon our allies in the middle of the night, leaving Bagram Airfield at literally 2 in the morning without coordinating with our partners, leaving military equipment behind. And frankly, pulling our military out before we pulled our own civilians and our Afghan partners out, left them effectively in the dark and in the lurch and in harm's way. So moving forward, we have to execute this plan cleanly. We've got to secure the airfield. It sounds like that is moving in the right direction. We're making progress with that action. We've got to get our folks out of there. There's still a lot of Americans there. There are a lot of Afghan interpreters who have served alongside of our American troops, shot rounds, taken rounds, and have been good partners to us in this global war on terror that are still there, as well as their families. We've got roughly 80 folks that my office is trying to support and help vector in the correct direction and direct coordination with the State Department. These are folks, constituents of mine who have family in Afghanistan, various parts, primarily in Kabul. As well as folks who have served alongside Afghan interpreters that don't want to see their peers, their fellow warriors executed, and that's where we are heading if we fail to execute this program cleanly and get people out in the next few days.
And where do we stand now? What does this do for our geopolitical status?
It's not good. I mean, if you had asked me a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago where I thought the Afghanistan situation lied in our top 10 threats facing our nation, this wouldn't have made the top 10. We have done a decent job of stabilizing the region, especially in the country of Afghanistan, and thwarting terrorism in Afghanistan and the surrounding areas. And so to see us botch this so incredibly badly, and then realize that we have bigger bears outside of our tent in Afghanistan, such as China, such as Russia, Iran, North Korea, and this rise in socialism around the globe. It's not heartwarming. It isn't something that we should feel good about, obviously, as this unfolds.
Right.
I'm very worried about the national security of our country right now, especially over the next 3.5 years. Leadership matters. And I don't know where this president is getting his advice. I don't know where he's getting his strategy decisions. But we're making very poor decisions on the international, global, and the macro geopolitical scene right now.
President Biden says that the buck stops here. He also said that things didn't clearly not go exactly the way that they anticipated. But he also pointed out that President Trump had signed an agreement to essentially, remove U.S. forces from Afghanistan in May. He also pointed out that the Afghan leadership themselves have not been especially good at defending their own country. country. Do either of those groups, both President Trump and the Afghan leadership, do they bear some responsibility in this as well?
Yeah, the irony of the speech is that he says the buck stops here after talking for 18 minutes about who else was to blame. Look, it's never a good idea to have a prescribed date with an unconditional withdrawal, and that's what this president did. This is why we failed, and this is why things went so south so quickly in just a few months and really just the last several weeks. Ultimately, the people that are to blame for what's going on in Afghanistan are the bad guys. The Taliban is not a good group of folks. These are savages whose interests lie in actually eliminating folks like us, people who enjoy their freedoms and Americans like us. They are folks who cut people's heads off. What's happening in Afghanistan is a direct result of these bad people doing bad things to good people who are seeking freedoms and liberties just like the rest of us around the globe. So ultimately, the responsibility of what's going on today and over the last 21 years in Afghanistan is a direct result of the Taliban and al-Qaeda. These are bad actors. This president failed, though. He could have done a lot better. He could have done things a lot sooner. And frankly, saying you're going to pull out by a certain date is never a good idea. I don't care what side of the aisle you're coming from.
But didn't President
we
Trump
missed out on a lot
too?
of opportunities. He did. Yeah, he did as well. And, you know, I don't think that we should prescribe dates for withdrawals. We should communicate the location, the duration, or the timing and composition of anything that we do when it comes to troop movements. But look, we have a Weinberger doctrine. We need to depart these areas and our wars eventually with good exit strategies. In this case, we missed some opportunities. There were strategic opportunities that we didn't take advantage of. And when you look at where Afghanistan is, it's on the back porch of Russia and China. And as we're evacuating now, and the irony of all of this is that we now have 3 times as many troops in Afghanistan today than we did a week ago, right? So this isn't the right direction. He's not doing what he was trying to do. And Russia and China are effectively laughing at us right now as they build up forces in the region around Afghanistan and Kabul.
You bring a different perspective because you served this country. Thank you for your service. You served in Iraq. What is your message to the veterans out there watching tonight who feel defeated and despair?
Yeah, don't feel that way, brothers and sisters. If you fought overseas, and especially in Afghanistan, you see what's going on. It wasn't for naught. We will recover. We will get our friendlies out of there. We're actively working hard to get our partners and our fellow citizens out of Afghanistan. Remember, we eradicated al-Qaeda over the last 20 years, and that's on the back of the hard work of our soldiers, the men and women that went over there and made sacrifices. The thousands who've lost their lives did not do so in vain. We thwarted terrorism in a very critical region right in the backyard of some very bad people. And we got rid of bin Laden, and that was the ultimate objective that we went in there with back in 2001. So now we've got to pay attention. We cannot create a power vacuum, just go away and pretend like nothing exists over there anymore. The disservice to our veterans occurs when you forget how volatile that country can be and how bad quickly things can change. And if we create a vacuum and allow another organization like ISIS or al-Qaeda to flourish in Afghanistan, then we as a nation have failed. And I'm begging this commander-in-chief to pay attention and do his job.
Congressman Mike Garcia, thank you for your service to our country. Thanks for coming on tonight, and best of luck.
Thank you, guys.
Best of luck with the family.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.